Hello, my name is Misha Hilton, and I'm going to get the latest on our folder and open it from my workspace. Let's see, going to Explorer and extract it over here. That shouldn't take too long. Our game is called Ghost Core, and it's a psychological adventure. Um, with a little bit of horror, but it's not anything that is it's not a main part of the game. It's more, like I said, a psychological adventure. Our design pillars are to gain new abilities to overcome obstacles, um, discover mysteries by exploration, and the third one, completing objectives to progress the game. So here in my introduction area, I have a soda pop machine. It's called Zany Pop. I'm gonna go ahead and dispense the Zany Pop. As you can see later, or in my bottom left screen, my sanity meter is quite low. What that sanity meter does is when I possess a ghost, it will deplete it over time. And when I lose it, see, when I start using abilities or just staying or just being a ghost, it depletes a little more. So now that I lost my sanity, I have a visual distortion and it won't go back to normal until I fully replenish my sanity. So there we go. I am fully replenished and now I can go back and get possessed by the ghost. They won't possess me if I'm insane. They want me to find their memory fragments that give me the abilities to overcome the obstacles, which is pertaining to the first pillar or one of the pillars. So now that I continue to push the box and I gain another ability, and this ability allows me to pull. You can see with the visual, uh, my visual feedback with the action button, but you can see the material changed as well. Um, when I'm within range, it'll light up the box. When I'm out of range, it won't light up. So if I can't move it, it won't light up and the action button won't. So now that I collected the third one, I have a telekinesis ability now. Well, it's all telekinesis, but the third part of it is the levitation, which is what I wanted to demonstrate as what I added to the telekinesis ability. And according to our one of our other pillars to discover um mysteries by exploration, when players pick up boxes, there could be things under it. So that is one of our um, pillars. Now, you've noticed that when I collected the fragments, that they are floating around me. Now, this indicates what level the ability that I currently have is at. The player does not the player, the ghost does have the opportunity to learn two other types of abilities, and they're different colors. They will be represented in a different color, so the player knows what ability they have and what level it's at. The ghost can have up to three abilities, and in any kind of them in any order. Here in the practice level, the player has the opportunity to either try and build something to get across this gap using the yellow boxes or the soda machines, or they can push the box that you see me pushing down there um, to get it to the other side to fill the gap. And when any of these boxes are in motion, it stops the ghost from moving. So I'm gonna move this out of the way so I can continue to push because I'm going to I'd rather push the box over to the other side to get to the gap. It, like I said, it's an optional um, area, one or the other. I did, however, disable the sanity from returning the player back to the body just so I can get through the demonstration. So when you see the sanity get low and wonder why, if it's completely depleted, why I didn't go insane or return to the body, that's why, just for this demonstration. Um, Also, the player will recognize with practice as they push and pull these boxes. I'm gonna pull that and see if it lines up better. Okay, so it's not lining up better. So, but with practice, the player will notice that pushing the box, okay, that sure that is going to, yeah, that should fit in there. Okay, so they would notice that pushing the box is better than pulling it because it travels at a further rate than pulling it. So this makes the player try and position the box or position themselves behind the box to push it. As you see that I cleared the area above it of the pyramid of boxes so that I can get behind the box to push it as opposed to pulling it so it can go faster. This saves sanity because it requires it to use any of the ghost's ability. And if I'm pulling more than I'm pushing, of course it's going to deplete it much more. And as you can see now, my sanity is completely gone, but it didn't return me back to my player. Um, that is intentional. So as I pull it, as you can notice the difference that it doesn't move as far. So, okay. So I'm gonna try and get behind the box. I think I should be able to get to it. Yep, around this side and push it. Okay. All right. So it should be in place. Yeah. I wouldn't be able to go back around that side to go up those stairs because I blocked it with the blocks. And that's how I designed that area to take care of that. To make the player explore the area more. So now that I got through this practice area, we're gonna do the master area. Well, this is the beginning of the master area, and you'll see as I pull this box off here that the words show itself, master area. Um, so in the last area, the practice area, it gave the player. Well, we'll start from the beginning. In the intro area, I placed the fragments right in front of the boxes so that the interaction was immediately um, known to the player. In the practice area, um, the lines on the floor um, were still there as well as within the intro area. But as you can see now, those lines are no longer there. Those lines was sort of treated like the objective pillar, where the player would need to follow that objective and to move the boxes to those areas in order to progress the game. So that should cover all three of our design pillars. I designed the master area to use a lot of the pushing and pulling mechanics, as this was the first ability the player learned. There is a lot of the levitation as well, but because I didn't allow the player to return to the body. Some areas need to some areas the player needs to jump, and the ghost does not have that ability to jump. When they gain a different ability as the ghost, which is called the ghosting ability, they are able to teleport to higher locations. So that solves that um, problem with the ghost. Also, if you notice, the ghost moves very slow. A part of that other ability as well is that they're able to float over gaps, but while they're floating, they are able to move a little bit faster. So the player would actually use that to as a sprint. So here goes the demonstration of or mastering the levitation. This is a very large box, and the area it needs to go is a very thin area. Uh, and so the player needs to know where they're heading. So I am heading over to the staircase so that I can place this down. So let's put it over my head so that I can walk it up the stairs. And this is what the player will learn or master, rather. I should be able to put it over my head. I'm not understanding why that's not working. Oh, there we go. Now it's over my head. Almost. Okay, here we go. Over my head. So now I'm able to walk with it um, to some tight areas. But as I said, this is the master area, and so this is something the player should already be aware of the limitations of the ability and where it can go and where it can't go, what it can try and do to get it to fit, go where it needs to go, or go where they need it to go, rather. So I needed to go up these stairs, then placed it down there. So as the player, I'd be able to jump onto that. I can actually fix it because it returns to its rotation. So the player would jump over there and up there. They actually can't jump that high up there, but they can jump over to that side. And there's another box over there waiting for them to place it in a specific area in order to get up to that end there. Um, but there's more pushing and pulling involved. Over here, they need to actually, I'll show them what they need to, I'll show you what you need to build, because if you notice in the bottom left corner, my oxygen is running out. And when that happens, the player dies, and so, of course, the ghost is dispersed. So we'll move that out of the way so that I can show you what needs to be built over here in order for the player to progress through the mastery level. So here they're pushing the box. This is the bottom step for the player to jump on. It's much shorter. But of course, like I said, they're not able to jump on it. I'll show you where they would use it in order to jump on that first staircase. This is the second part of the staircase of the that the player will need to build. So they will pull this out of the way. You can see there's a doorway off to the right. See if I can't get over there real quick before my oxygen runs out. So they would move that second staircase down and move this staircase um, further down so they can and move that one all the way to the bottom. There's the third staircase and bring it all the way back up to this way and set it all up over here. My oxygen's almost gone. Almost gone. And they would set it up over here all the way at the end. And that's the box that they would have had to lay down right here. And then the player would jump on the yellow box. Then they would jump on that first staircase, the second one, the third one, and get to the top. And that is the end of the video. Um, Thank you for listening, and I hope you enjoyed it. I'm gonna rage quit.
Hi, my name is Justin Larson, and I'm going to demonstrate the mechanic that I created for my team, Precious Cobbler or 9210 Studios. First off, our most recent build version is version 0.13, which I have extracted into my workspace right here. So the mechanic I made is a visor mechanic. That's the primary mechanic that I have there. It's also built around my helmet UI, uh, which you'll see here in just a moment. I also made this music. Just thought you should know. Anyway, if you have time and want to listen to it, go. So, coming into that, um, when the player comes into the level, you'll notice that they have a UI around them, but this is actually a physical helmet, which the visor is attached to. And it has different types of widgets and things like that that are on it. It has a map at the top right, weapons, ammo, top left, sanity, health, stamina, bottom left, power, oxygen, integrity at the bottom right. These are all different stats that'll be used throughout the game for different reasons, but that's not the main focus. The main focus here is the visor. Now, the visor, when you press U, pops up, and you'll notice a lot of different lights and stuff start popping up on the visor. These are various different indicators. Now, talking about the feedback to this, right? First of all, the feel of this kind of we're kind of going down this road of being a space explorer, astronaut, what have you. Um, this is a sci-fi game that we're building out in space, um, and it's supposed to also be a psychological thriller to a degree. Now, the helmet is supposed to have like a stifling feel to it. It's supposed to, and I also wanted the player to have like a tactile feel to it instead of just having a regular standard HUD showing all of your statuses or just having a little green screen pop up and post process stuff. I wanted it to actually feel like you are manipulating equipment and things like that in order to make it through the level. That's where the sounds come into play, the little blips and the clicks and all of that stuff, giving it that tactile feel to it. Um, so, with our vision, what this visor can be used for is, well, we're trying to make a basically a psychological puzzle game with a little bit of shooter combat elements and sci-fi into it and whatnot. So what the visor can be used for is to help with solving puzzles, navigate your way through um, navigate your way through different types of areas and whatnot, as well as helping to avoid uh, being ambushed in combat. So when the player first gets into this, um, the way I intend at the very end, when it's all said and done and polished up, is to actually have a prompt at the bottom of that on the bottom of that helmet screen, a prompt explaining how the visor tutorial works. All right, and that prompt will be used for other things as well, but in this particular case, it would basically lead with visor tutorial, press U to activate visor. And once you did, it would start to explain the different uses behind the visor as well as the different indicators that the visor utilizes. So in this case, you have yellow, which is going to be your standard electrical signals. Oh, and in case I didn't say it, the visor is used to detect electrical currents or electromagnetic changes and stuff like that. So yellow is seen the furthest out and it's a standard signal. Red is seen kind of mid-range and it's um, AI or in our case enemy signal. Green is interactable signal, so anything that you can that's electrical that you can interact with, like buttons and whatnot. And purple is paranormal. So those will be any kind of ghost or ghost events or anything like that that we create that can be detected with the visor. So, and of course, the ghosts don't really pop up until you're pretty much right up on top of them. So when getting into your introduction of the visor, You pick up the visor or you start the level and it tells you about the visor tutorial. You turn it on. First thing you'll see is a trail for these different electrical conduits and things like that will, you'll have to work through. And you'll navigate your way through the levels and whatnot until eventually you get to a practice point where you will want to start learning how to use the interactions and whatnot. Um, so in this case, you you're using the visor to help identify what you can interact with um, when it comes to switches and stuff like that. And as a little point of advantage, instead of having to fight the enemies, you can just disable them instead if you can find their way of, you know, disabling them. So moving along, we'll come back up here. Don't even know why I came out of the visor. So we'll make our way around and continuing through our practice, we'll have like a little ghost encounter. Um, Now, just to clarify on this, the mesh is a placeholder. That ghost will look more distorted in the visor view. Um, but once you get close to them, they start lighting up. But because of that, we were able to avoid that ghost from having to be force possessed by them. All right, and in mastery, you'll come up on an area, something similar like this, where you have multiple enemies you'll have to face. And you can see that one of the downsides to using the visor is accuracy. All right. So because the visor is a bit distorted, it's hard to see and get accurate shots, as well as not everything is rendered in the visor. Um, and this will be simplified even down further the more we polish this. So coming up on this particular mastery level, you would come to an area with several enemies and whatnot. You can either dive in and start shooting them, or you can use your visor and see if there's a tactical advantage of some kind. Now, you'd see that your electrical conduit that you were following before leads to a green flashing dot back there. It's a pretty good indicator it's a switch of some sort. So, oh, and you see that there's a ghost hiding behind that wall as well. That could make for a significant disadvantage if you uh, while these turrets are shooting at you. Could mean it immediately. So, hitting that switch disables the turrets, and now you can freely navigate the rest of the way through the level. So, just in case I didn't clarify before, some of the rewards and punishments, you kind of saw the advantages behind using the visor, but you also saw the disadvantages. Advantages behind using the visor, it helps you figure out where there might be some hidden objects. Maybe we get into some secret doors and things like that. Maybe it's something electrical back there that's causing things to flash and blip a little bit. Uh, it'll help prevent you from getting snuck up on a ghost, or it may cause ghost sanity issues to happen worse. We haven't quite fully figured that one out, but it it will allow you to avoid being ambushed by turrets and AI and things of that nature, and it'll help, kind of keep you on the right golden path as well by following different electrical conduits and things like that. Um, Disadvantages: poor accuracy. You may not necessarily see everything. Um, the lighting won't be the same, which can lead you into some particular issues. Um, your field of view isn't as good. So it's not really practical for combat. But aside from that, that pretty much covers it. Um, I hope you enjoyed this video, and uh, I'd like to introduce you to the rest of my team. Thank you very much.
Hi, I'm Gerald Goodrich, and the mechanic I created is the room switching. And it aligns mostly with our third pillar, which is uncovering mysteries by exploring. By using this mechanic, the player is forced to take a more direct route to where the maze of rooms leads, which leads to a predetermined area setup, bearing setup, that can be defined by the designer. This will give an opportunity to lead players to areas that might have otherwise been missed in an open area, which could lead to uncovering different mysteries about said area, while fitting in with the genre by making the player question their sense of direction when exiting one of the maze sections. The impact this mechanic would have on the world itself is adding a sense of unpredictability to it. In blockout form, it isn't quite as apparent, but each of these different rooms have different moods and environments. The mechanic I designed is meant more to make the player question their surroundings and make them question what is happening. I wanted to make it so the player never knows if the next room they enter is going to be another maze or if it's going to be a regular room. A successful navigation of the room mazes will grant access to hidden areas and different levels. The punishment of unsuccessful attempts isn't quite fully implemented yet, but my plans are each room that switches will make the player lose a chunk of sanity. And as the sanity reaches certain thresholds, an effect will play that will make moving around disoriented until the player either uses or locates a sanity remedy or the effects wear off. Feedback I created an effect that distorts the screen when a room is switched and is going to occur. Audio has an evil laugh that plays that gives the sense that the player is being toyed with by an unseen force. Now there is only a simple increase in room switches that are implemented and working, but I have a few things to mix in with the rooms to give them a sense of difference from each other, such as doors that need to be opened by levers. And there is a rotating platform that I am still working on out how to implement into it as well.
Hello, my name is Professor Iqbal, and we're going to be taking a look at what I've been working on for Sprint 2 on our project for Capstone. If we go ahead and go into my level, I have been working on a feature that is multiple different mechanics, enemies, whatever you'd like to call them. They are part of the disassembly units, and that's basically what they do. They are all tools on their own that are usually used to take apart scrap and machinery, but together and eventually, one by one, as you'll see, they're going to be turning into enemies because of some corruption. Um, so to start off, the inspiration for my design pillars for these is going to be both exploration to uncover the mysteries that are going on, because I made it look a little bit like what it's going to look in the final build. We're not going to have any open areas like that roof right there, I mean the sky, but it's basically going to be like this, conveyor belt, just to show the disassembly, corridor area where all the scrap is taken and taken apart. And then the second inspiration was something that you have to overcome in order to proceed with the journey, which again, it goes right back into you have to get through here in order to go forward, but also going through here reveals what's actually going on, why are these machines getting corrupted, what's going on, and let's just see what it is. So to start off, we have the blade or buzzsaw unit. This one's used to obviously cut things apart. But it's acting up a little bit. Right now it's going to act like an enemy. These hurt the player if they come into contact with it, and unlike a lot of different things, they don't just do damage, they instantly kill the player, because, well, it's a sharp blade. And this is going to be our first introduction to the blade. Right here, you can see there's a little opening that we can squeeze right through because there's something wrong with that one. And obviously we know not to walk into blades, and that's just the introduction right there for what they are. Blades, they move back and forth, they can hit you, they can kill you. Next thing is the... just gonna run across since I had the chance. The next thing is going to be these box carriers, the pincers, hands, claws, whatever you want to call them, to again pick up the scrap after it's been dismantled, or what happened. Currently they're sort of sliding towards me. This just started happening, we're working on fixing that, but they're supposed to go through the hole. But basically, again, this is your introduction to it. This both blocks the way, and if it hits you, it does hurt you. So that's, again, you want to watch out for that. Obviously, you don't want to get smushed by it. The hammers, or hydraulics, presses, whatever you want to call them, they're used to flatten out the scrap after it's been taken apart into smaller pieces. Again, if you get smushed by them, they do damage, but they do kill you, because both of the hammers have their own damage, and when they hit you at the same time in the middle, you just die. And that's the units. It's going to be 3 of them. That's the introduction to them right there. Again, they all have sounds to let you know, that they're going to hit you. You don't want to get clanked by that. They all have pretty distinct visuals to let you know you don't want to walk into a blade, you don't want to get crushed by a bot, you don't want to get smushed by hammers. And then next over here we have the practice, where it gets a little bit more interesting. So starting from here on out, the blades are actually able to have different speeds, different variations. They can come out at different times. They can block your way. Sometimes you can't just walk through, you have to run. It makes you use up your stamina. You have to think about it. Over here we have some other blades. You can see we can give them different speeds. They're going across the ground just like the first one was. But again, these ones, because they have different speeds, we can squeeze right between them. And the blades are always just a little bit faster than the player is. so you can't just run past them. You do have to squeeze between the blades because you can't outrun. They're just a little bit faster than you are. And then again over here, you can give them varying speeds, you can even give them random speeds. You don't want to get hit by them again, it's an instant kill. They're getting more dangerous now. That's the practice area for the blades. That's what you're going to be trying to avoid when they come out in sequence over there from the wall, when they come out from the floor. Then we have the practice area for the claw, the pincer. Again, now, it's not just sitting there and dropping boxes down. It's moving around, you have to try and avoid it. It applies damage. Again, something's, going on. Going back to the pillar of the finding out what's going on. Why are they all acting like this? What's going on? Why are they going haywire? But then also, unlike Blade, the box can actually be used as a platform to move from place to place. And that's how the practice works for the box. And again, if you were just standing under one, it would hit you, and noise letting you know. That's your auditory feedback right there. They do all do damage. The damage is just turned off right now, so I could show off all the different effects and sounds without constantly dying and having to start back over from the start. Again, here is now the practice section for the hammers. Just like the blades and the boxes, they now have a sequence. They can come in a sequence, they can have varying speeds, they can even be random. If you get smushed by them, you die. And just like the box, they can also be used to traverse. Like so. Which takes us to the mastery area, where now we can see that the blades can both move around, have different speeds, have different variations, have different delays on them, and they actually shoot the blades out now. And again, they're not all shooting out at the same speed. You'll see some of them shoot out first, some of them shoot out later, some of them shoot at the same time sometimes. You have all three. There's varying speeds. And then above, we have the mastery for the crates, which now, again, can also move around. I just have them going back and forth like this because it's easier, but we can't have them move in any way. That's going to be a threat to the player. You're going to want to avoid them. I have all the collisions actually visible right now, so I could show you. But if I walked into one of them, I'm afraid of getting hit by the blades. It will drop the box to try and crush me. And you can't just run past it. That's why it has a little bit of an arc. So if you go ahead, you can get out of the way. And then for the mastery section for the hammers, what they do is, again, on top of having the varying speeds and not wanting to get crushed by them now, they can also hit floors and change which way the floor is inclined. That's going to be used for the player having to either get on and jump off at the apex on one of the sides. They need to get somewhere. As got hit by the blades. As well as if you're at the bottom of it, it does launch you up a little bit. And then for the actual boss fights that's going to be in the full version of this, all three of these things, after they've been introduced, practiced, and mastered, will come back again a fourth time in the boss fight itself, in one single room with all three of them that you have to deal with to defeat them, get through the boss, and find out what is going on at the station. Thank you so much for watching. That is all I have to show for now.
Hello, my name is Joshua Cologne, and I came up with the power cable mechanic. This fits in with our design pillars because our game is centered around space, and so technology is very prevalent in space, and a lot of technology needs power. So the player needs to um, there'll be times where the player will need to act draw power to activate whatever needs to be activated in order to progress through the level. For player agency, the player will need to interact with this in order to progress through. Um, that is their only way of progressing with this mechanic. For clarity and learnability, I placed a text render that says press E to interact. E is a default interact for a game, as you can see here. Once the player activates that, the power cable will fill up with power and activate the door. For reward and punishment, the reward will be the progression through the level. For punishment, in cases of multiple levers that need to be activated in order to get through the level, um, if the player does not activate the correct ones, they will not be able to progress. As for this part, it's pretty simple because I placed lights above the levers, giving the player a hint at what they need to activate. For feedback, I added a sound as well as the material filling up for the power cable, so the player knows that the power cable is actually being activated. Just like I said, the sound is like a charge up sound, and for um, the door plays an opening sound. For iteration and variation, uh, the first part was the introduction of this mechanic. The player only needed to activate one in order to progress. In the second instance, the player needed to activate three in order to progress. And then for the mastery of this, the player needs to determine which ones actually need to be activated in order to get through the door. So as you can see, the player will need to follow these or just activate all of them to see which ones actually work. Okay, that does nothing. So that's going to the door. And that was the last one. So that door only needed two. That concludes my mechanic presentation. This can be utilized in multiple different cases, which I plan on doing later on during this project.